A Montana man is dead after being shot by police officers following a car chase. Authorities said the man also rammed into police cars and ignored officers' orders before being shot. Billings Police Chief Rich St. John told local media that police received a call late Friday about a man ramming into a car and officers attempting to chase the suspect. A local television station reported that officers found the man slumped over the wheel of a pickup truck just after midnight, and he reached toward the glove box. The Billings Gazette reports the man then backed into a patrol car, hit a minivan, and struck another patrol car. St. John said at that point, officers fired their weapons. The 24-year-old man's name has not yet been released. 5 officers are involved. Former Grizzly football player Bo Donaldson is currently on parole after spending about a third of his 10-year prison sentence for raping an acquaintance in Missoula. Missoula County Attorney Kirsten Pabst provides more details on that case.
About 4 years ago, Mr. Donaldson was convicted of sexual intercourse without consent. He was sentenced by Judge Townsend to 30 years in the prison, with 20 of those suspended. So that equates to a 10-year prison sentence, followed by 20 years of probation.
Pabst said Donaldson has not upheld his end of the parole agreement.
Parole is essentially an act of grace by the parole board. They look at the circumstances of an offense, the individual characteristics of an offender, and then if they think that the person presents a lower risk or that they've learned their lesson or that they've been rehabilitated, they will grant them parole with very, very strict conditions. We are asking the court to impose the entirety of the prison sentence now because of alleged violations.
Donaldson's case was featured prominently in John Krakauer's book, Missoula, Rape in the Justice System at a College Town. There was no timeline of when Pabst's request might be acted upon. Montana Senator Jon Tester says he's donating money his campaign received from Senator Al Franken to a sexual violence prevention organization. Tester denounced Franken and said the Minnesota senator had donated $25,000 to Tester's campaigns. Both Tester and Franken are Democrats. Franken has been accused of groping and forcibly kissing a woman back in 2006. Franken has apologized and requested an ethics investigation into his conduct. The Billings Gazette reports that Tester will donate $25,000 to the Montana Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. Tester's up for re-election next year. Franken also has given $12,500 to the Montana Democratic Party since 2011. The party spokesman, Roy Lowenstein, said the money has already been spent, and so the party would not be making donation arrangements similar to those of Tester's. Now that the special session of the Montana legislature is adjourned, the state university system was spared the deep cuts that other agencies endured, according to Deputy Commissioner of Higher Education Kevin McCray.
The university system, relatively speaking, had a very successful special session, and that is because going into that special session, Governor Bullock, in his prioritization for recommended cuts, put a very high priority on university system funding.
McCray said Governor Steve Bullock knew that the university system had already undergone significant cuts in the last regular session.
In the last regular legislative session, the campuses, our colleges and universities, took about a $10 million hit that then created about a $20 million unfunded obligation that we largely charged students to cover by increasing tuition this fall.
McCray said the fact that students are already absorbing the cuts through higher tuition and the campuses are cutting expenses, the special cuts are possible to absorb while still providing a quality education. The State Health Department has drafted proposed regulations for the medical marijuana industry, setting rules for quality testing, tracking, and increasing fees. The Billings Gazette reports the Department of Public Health and Human Services plans a public hearing in Helena on November 30th. Agency spokesman John Ebolt said the state sought input from Montana providers and researched practices in states that have legalized marijuana use. Under the rules, providers would have to have their products tested for levels of THC along with metals and pesticides. Annual licensing fees would be $5,000 for providers with more than 10 registered patients, $1,000 for smaller providers, and $2,000 for testing labs. The patient fee would be raised from $5 to $30. There is also tracking and security requirements. With a drop in timber harvests and mining being a thing of the past now, Mineral County is struggling to live up to its name and stay in the black. Only about 10% of the county is private, so the local tax base just can't foot the bill. County Commissioner Roman Zalawi says Mineral County is now dependent on SRS, or Secure Rural Schools funding, sent from the federal government.
It's a kind of a complicated formula, but basically it takes our 3 best years of logging in the county receipts, and they would average it out And when it first started out, we would get $1.2 million, one-third going to the 3 school districts in Mineral County, St. Regis, Alberton, Superior, and then 2/3 going to the county to maintain the roads and the road department.
Yes. SRS funding hasn't been approved yet this year. The county's worried it may have to abide by a policy established by Theodore Roosevelt, which may have worked back when timber was being harvested at a higher rate, but won't do it now.
Now that the SRS has not been authorized, we revert back to the 25% forest reserve. So they take into account the logging that occurred this last year and give us 25% of that money, which this year it's $41,000 in Mineral County. The SRS money always goes down every year. Last year, the county's 2/3 was $593,000.
As the Forest Service closes roads and prohibits snowmobiling in large swaths of Mineral County's public lands, Salawi is also increasingly skeptical that the county can shift to a tourism-based economy. The new facility for Cold Springs Elementary School students won't be called Cold Springs. MCPS Superintendent Mark Thane says area families submitted dozens of possible names for the school, and there are now 5 finalists.
We had the committee review the 40 names, and they actually went through a process to winnow it down to 5 names that were then included on a survey that was submitted to all the students, and the students were asked to rank those 5 names 1 to 5, with 1 being their top choice. And then each family was sent home 1 survey, and the family could also rank the names 1 to 5.
Among the 5 finalists, the current name with the highest vote total is a prominent Montana politician and the first woman elected to federal office in the U.S.
These are just the first place votes. Jeanette Rankin had 346. Maloney Ranch Elementary had 174. 3 Rivers had 142. Mountain View had 44. And Miller Creek Elementary had 29. What we did was we awarded 5 points for each first place vote, 4 points for each second, 3 for each third. And Jeanette Rankin Elementary School also came out on top.
Ultimately, the school board will make the final decision. That announcement's expected by the end of the month. News Talk time is 6:12.
News Talk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
We'll see rain and snow this morning, transitioning to all rainfall in the afternoon hours with a high temperature near 41 degrees. Tonight, still raining with a low around 33 degrees. I'm meteorologist Anthony Franz for Missoula, KECI 13.